So I've officially been at Real Broker for 1 full year now, and it's been a pretty wild ride. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience, why I switched, what I was hoping to get out of Real, and if it's all been worth the hype. So let's get into it. My name is Kurtis Hawkins, and I'm a realtor with Real Broker, and I'm the founder of the Real Estate One team located right here in Lethbridge, Alberta. And as of the last 2 quarters, we have been named the #1 small team at Real Broker in all of Canada for units sold. I recently started this YouTube channel to teach other agents how to grow their social media presence through, obviously, social media. So if any of that interests you, please consider subscribing. So although I typically make content about social media and how to create viral real estate videos, this was a video that I've wanted to create for a while just to share my experience. And originally I was going to put it on my other real estate channel that I used to sell real estate, but I figured that this was just a better option over the other one. Okay, so what made me want to switch to Real? Well, about 6 months into my real estate career, Real Broker had just come to Canada. And I really didn't know much about Real or any other cloud-based brokerage for that matter. But I always considered myself an early adopter. For example, I'm like that guy that has the first to get that new piece of gear, like the new piece of filming equipment, that new computer, that new phone, the new software. I'll literally try anything that's coming out new if it's going to be the new best thing, which could actually be a bit of a fault of mine that I'm always jumping over to the new thing, but I'm always just very curious about, what's the next best thing and how is it going to help me and how is it going to help me grow my business. However, I was still pretty new when Real came to Canada, and I was already at a brokerage that honestly I was happy with. And I was having some success early on. So basically I just stuck with the status quo and I kept chugging along at my current brokerage. And me being me, I always research new trends on social media and getting new ideas. And I noticed a lot of really big social media agents making the switch to Real, like Brad McCallum up in Calgary, or one of my good friends, Tyler Haspin. And when they made the move, it really made me curious. So I dug into it a little bit more. But at the time, again, my business was growing and there was no real reason for me to leave my current brokerage. And I just kind of thought, the grass wasn't actually greener on the other side. Although I have to admit, it was in the back of my mind at all times. And I think the real reason why I didn't make the switch sooner is because of the thought of downlines, to be honest. And recruiting agents, I just thought that, recruiting agents just wasn't for me. And of course, having a local brokerage with a physical office and a broker in the office, I thought was super important. It's kind of one of those things, once you have something, why do you want to give it up for something different, especially if things are going well? But again, I always keep an open mind. However, about another year after that, the team I was currently on was making a bunch of changes that I just didn't want to be a part of. So my business partner and I, Brett, decided to do our own thing. And finally, after a month of talking it over, we finally decided to make the switch. Basically, what I was hoping for in the switch is to have a brokerage that let me have control over my team, especially my brand, just a bit more than my previous brokerage. And honestly, I wanted more of a cloud-based brokerage just to get away from the local politics. And what I mean by that is, in my town, and I'm sure it's the same for you in whatever town or city you're from in some degree, is, when you hear of this brokerage in this town, it's immediately associated with a personality or another realtor, or maybe even that broker, which can be a very good thing or could be a very bad thing. And really, I just wanted to steer clear of all these egos of this and that brokerage, and just having a cloud-based brokerage allowed me to do that. So the question is, after a full year, was the switch actually worth it? So first, let's talk about that Reason app. This isn't just an app, it's actually a desktop site as well that Real agents can use to upload all of our paperwork that can be reviewed by our brokers and the transaction management team. At my old brokerage, this was all done via email, which I thought was fine at the time. You just email it in, you get an email back, everything's good. But this platform makes everything so much easier, especially when you need to find an old document or look something up on the fly, like a possession date or the name of a lawyer, anything like that. It's literally all right there in the app. And this is honestly something, as a high producing agent, that I don't think I could actually live without anymore. But you can deposit checks through the Reason app. So no longer do you have to go down to the bank or drive down to an office just to get a check. I just take a photo of it just like I am with like a mobile banking app, and that deposit goes right into the trust account at Real. I can track payments, outstanding payments, my listings, my transactions, my team's transactions, my cap, my stock, everything within one app. It's Absolutely amazing. Now, what I think is crazy is having these online assets that are given to realtors to streamline their business is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the advantage that these, big cloud-based brokerages have over these smaller, more traditional brick and mortar brokerages. Next, I wanted to talk about the culture because honestly, this was something that I had heard about before joining Real. I mean, every marketing thing or every event that you go to, they're really big on culture. And honestly, I thought that it was just bullshit. Like, how do you even quantify what culture is? And how do you actually explain culture? How do you put that on pen and paper? The Reason app is very easy for me to see. I can go and, find somebody at Real and be like, hey, is this app actually worth it? Does it work? I'll test it out. But how do you actually explain culture? I don't know. And until you're here and you immerse yourself in those masterminds, in the Zoom calls, in the in-person events, it is still really hard to explain it. But the best that I can say is that it's a really positive and motivating brokerage, and there is lots of collaboration. What I personally love is that there's all these other agents from different markets across Canada and across the US, and they're super open and super willing to share their success and their knowledge. Whereas at my last brokerage, I did kind of find that there was some gatekeeping because at the end of the day, we were all competing with each other in our local market. But what I noticed was when there was someone in Calgary or someone in Winnipeg or someone in BC or someone in Texas, it really didn't matter because we had those open lines of communication. Honestly, because I'm not competing with them down there. So why would they be worried about sharing their successes with me? And I've also noticed because of this openness that I've actually noticed local real estate agents here have been more open to share, which is also really cool. And I think it just comes from, that culture that, everything's out in the open. We're going to share everything with everybody. And sure, maybe it starts with this cross province or cross state collaboration, but it does kind of filter down. And I've noticed even locally, like I said, there is more collaboration in between even local agents, which I honestly think is really cool and is really hard to find at other brokerages. And I can honestly say that I've learned more about marketing and getting more clients than I ever could at any other brokerage, which is pretty huge. Another thing that goes hand in hand with culture is the agents. And like I mentioned, I have never met agents that have been so open to collaborating and learn from each other. But to truly get the most out of it, you do need to reach out to other agents. You need to get on those masterminds. You need to get on the live training Zooming calls. And let me tell you, they are 100% worth it. And even better, take the time to go to Real events, which I'm going to talk about next. Okay, so Real hosts a big Real Rise event every year. I'm talking massive event. I went to my first Real Rise event last year in Vegas, and it was absolutely wild. They definitely know how to put on a fantastic conference. But seriously, it was like being part of a hyped up Apple event. There was music, there was entertainment, there was massive releases like Real Wallet. And what was absolutely killer is when they released the Apple Wallet, they did this big dramatic thing where they were like, okay, here is Real Wallet. Open your app now and refresh, and it's going to be in there. And when everybody got out their app and, they opened up Real Wallet and it was in there was just gasps among the entire room. It was a really cool event and a really cool way to, have a big product release like that. But even more than just, an incredible speakers and an incredible event and incredible entertainment, they did have educational sessions that you could learn from and get some tangible strategies to take home with you and grow your business even more, which is obviously really cool and why we're all there. This year, the Real Rise event is in Orlando, which I'm super excited for. So if there's anybody from Real that's going, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to meet you there. Now, there's also some smaller events. For example, we had one up in Calgary a couple months ago. It was about a half day where we went and we met up. Now, there is actually a story that I have to stop and tell right here because it is super cool. And I don't know if this would happen at any other event, but Tamir, the CEO, was actually there. And after this event, everybody went across the street and there was a bar where we had beer and pizza. And there was a big lineup for pizza, right? I got a couple pizzas, go back to the table. And Andrew, who is actually is an agent on my team, he was behind me and he was in line for pizza. So he's coming back and he's got a couple beers and he's got pizza in his hand, for everybody at the table. And as he's going through, he turns around and Tamir is right there. And Andrew was kind of in shock. He's like, oh my, Tamir, I'd love to shake your hand, but my hands are full. And Tamir goes, oh no, don't worry about it. Do you need a hand? So when we sit down, we're all sitting there waiting for Andrew to come back. we see Andrew come through and he's got 2 beers in his hand, and behind him is Tamir with his pizza. And we're like, what the heck is Tamir serving you? And, you know, it was just cool. And it was super humbling to actually see the CEO in that setting and, you know, just be an average dude just hanging out with us and helping us bring him pizza. It's nothing that I ever expected would happen, but it was just a really cool story. Okay, so let's move on here and let's talk about the Real Academy. So I did mention that I've learned a lot from other agents from these other events, but the Real Academy is literally an agent's superpower. And I haven't even been learning or using this to my full potential. There's like weekly mastermind Zoom calls about almost any topic you can think of. And there's presentations that are all archived. So you can go back, and if you miss them, you can go back and watch them on your own time. And honestly, I thought this was something that I really wouldn't utilize. However, over the past couple of months, I've been tuning in more and more, and I can promise you that they are super helpful. And there's a ton of information that's going to help you grow your business by attending all of these events absolutely for free. So whether you're a brand new agent, you're a top producer, you're a team leader, there's a section for you in there that's going to be game changing. And it's all available for free, all within Real Academy that you can find within that Reason app. This right here is one of the biggest differences from any other brokerage. Whereas at my last brokerage, there were a few people that I would learn from, especially the broker. But here I have access to thousands of agents and thousands of ideas and hundreds of hours of content I can consume to better strengthen my knowledge and my business. Finally, the last thing that I wanted to talk about was rev share and the stock. Because when I joined, these things weren't even a consideration for me. I kind of thought, yeah, you know, maybe I can make some revenue off some of these things, or maybe I can generate some extra income to help me out. But at the end of the day, I need to sell houses and I need to grow my business, which is still the best mindset to have in my opinion, because Real is for producing agents and it is what everyone should be focused on. And the stock awards and the rev share and all that kind of stuff will just come naturally and will just follow. However, the one thing that surprised me the most is that I had no clue how powerful the stock could actually be, which I'll talk about in a second. But first, let's talk rev share. Now, rev share was actually a really tricky subject when I talked to agents. And it was literally no different for me when someone else was talking to me about a cloud-based brokerage back before I joined. There was just something that really didn't feel right to me. And I didn't feel right about another agent making money off me joining the brokerage until I really thought about it. You see, when you join a traditional brokerage, you pay broker fees to the broker or the broker owner of the brokerage, and they might even pay a franchise fee. So in that case, the broker or the brokerage is making money off of recruiting agents to their brokerage. And the only one that benefits from that relationship is the broker owner or maybe the franchisor. The agents really don't get any benefit from running the brokerage. There's literally nothing I get out of bringing an agent to a more traditional brick and mortar brokerage unless I own the brokerage. So really, no matter how good the brokerage is, why would I want to grow it? I don't really get any benefit out of it. Well, at a cloud-based brokerage, they've kind of cut out the broker. The brokers and the owners of the brokerage don't recruit agents, but the actual agents at Real get the privilege to recruit other agents and actually benefit from the brokerage growth, both in rev share and in the stock. For example, if I bring an agent to Real and sponsor them in, there will be a little bit more responsibility on me, on my shoulders, to make sure that they get onboarded, they learn Reason, they learn how to use the system, and I'm actually invested in their growth and I want to see them succeed. And in return, not only do I receive rev share, but I continue to grow the brokerage and that stock rises, which even gives me more benefits. And the crazy thing is that every agent at the brokerage has the same opportunity. You don't have to be a broker or an owner. And when you receive that stock, I can promise you, you're going to feel a lot more invested in the success of this company. So now to wrap this whole thing up talking about stock. So since I joined Real, I signed up for the stock purchase plan, which means that every time I get a commission check, Real takes between 5 and 10% of that commission and they turn it into stock. And then of that amount, Real will actually award me with 15% of that 10%. So let's say $100. Let's say I have a commission check for $1,000. They'll take 100, turn it into stock. Then of that 100, they'll actually add 15% on top of that. Plus you can even earn more stock by capping. You get a bonus, a stock bonus for that. And if I'm a high producing agent and I hit elite, I can also make an additional $16,000 in stock. So just quickly right here on the screen, here's an actual screenshot of my Real wallet after just 1 year at Real. And I have over $50,000 in stock. just as an added bonus of doing the work that I was already doing before, which was just selling houses. I mean, how is this not a fantastic, crazy good benefit? This added bonus is something that I really didn't expect right out of year one. And I remember seeing posts like this from other agents, and I don't know, I thought it was just kind of unattainable or impossible or just untrue, or maybe you had to just be early into the brokerage to see this kind of success. I don't know, but I'm here to show you that this is actually legit and this is actually my true experience. And it didn't take any extra time or any extra effort to earn this stock. All I simply did was just do the job I was already doing. So there it is. There's my story on why I switched to Real. And to sum it all up, yes, it was absolutely worth the switch, and I am not going anywhere anytime soon. And if there is anyone that's watching this video that wants to make the switch or is just on the fence or just wants to chat more, I'll leave a Calendly link down in the description below so we can chat further if you want. I'll even leave my phone number down there as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video and want to see more videos about how to create viral social media content to grow your business, just subscribe, click the link down below. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks guys. Bye.